Hi there, and welcome to another tutorial with Mr. Arsenault. Today we're going to look at preparing our 123D design files so that they're ready for export into Makerbot desktop. Alright, so let's begin. For starters, we're going to need some kind of file that we can play with. So I recommend building a tree. Doesn't have to be pretty, but it has to be a tree. So that's what I'm going to be doing. It's not going to be pretty, but it will work. Sphere, select, scale, okay, so the bush is leaning backwards. Let's also give it a little bit of a branch. Scale that down. Then I'll take my extrude. Shortcut is U. I extrude this up. Make a point to it. Enter. Control T, free transform. Now let's stick them in the tree. Okay, so there's my branch. You'll notice that I built three things separately. Now, if I go and I merge these together, they'll become one object. I can do target and source, press enter, or I could do all three at the same time. It doesn't really matter. What does matter is that there's nothing else on the print bed. So if I have a cube way out here in the boonies that I forgot about, by the time I export this file for printing, Makerbot will actually scale it down to include this cube. So make sure you have nothing else on your build plate if you don't want it there. So I'll take this guy off, delete. Now when you go to export it, click on your file menu, export as 3D, we want STL. Now coarse means that your tessellation is going to come out like looking like sand, and the tessellation are your triangular faces. So we're dealing with 3D modeling, we're dealing with skins much like with the loft tool. So we don't want it to be too coarse, so I usually choose fine. That's what our machine is used to. And you'll see down here that if this object, combined objects selection is grayed out, it means that you have only one object. But because it's not, I have multiple objects. So my tree branch that's sticking out here, if I go combine objects, will now be with my tree. One way or another, always good to have that there. Sorry about that little blip, guys. Trust me when I say I saved the file as tree.stl. I've now transitioned into a program called Makerbot. This is not Makerbot Print. This has a red M. It is Makerbot Desktop. When you log into your account for the first time, and this is the first time you're using this application, you'll probably have a pop-up window that says either sign in or create an account. You can bypass those entirely by just clicking somewhere else because you can use it independently without having an account. So I like prepare. It shows me the print bed and it matches up to scale with our actual print beds in the classroom. Now we're going to load our file. File open. Scroll down, find tree, and select. Right now it's over there, but if I wanted to, I could click on the Move tool and manually move it. Or if I double-clicked, I could move it numerically. Click on Center. There it goes. On Platform, sometimes that's very useful if your object is floating in mid-air, because if it's not on the platform, it won't fuse to the build plate. The View, this is just so you can change your view. and watch it, but you'll notice that Makerbot is here at the bottom. That is the front of your machine. We also have rotate. In the event it prints better on its back or upside down or what have you, you could rotate it laterally with your cursor, or if you double click, you have other options to rotate it with. Okay, so just got to find the right one. There we go. And rotate around. Nope. Rotate around this way. There we go. That's good enough. Okay. So now that we have that, the last one is scale. Scale it up, scale it down, but if it exceeds the boundaries of the box, it'll probably give you a pop-up message saying, too big, please rescale. I'm just going to scale it down so that it's easier to print. Okay, from here we want to go into our settings. Most important place, settings. Typically these are off, but make sure that they are on. The raft will give you a 1/4 inch outline around the perimeter of the base. That's very important because that allows the print object to fuse to your build plate. Very important. And the supports, we'll talk about supports later, but essentially it prevents your object from getting messed up and printing incorrectly if you have something that is unsupported, like printing in midair. Your layer height. Standard is 2 microns or 0.2 millimeters. If you're doing something really detailed, you can bring it down to 0.1, or something really bulky like a sphere or a cube. Because it's a tree we don't really care about, I'd probably use 0.3. Processes a whole lot faster and prints a whole lot better. Number of shells. Default is 2, but you can bring it up to 3 if you're doing something really finicky or technical. The number of shells is essentially the skin. So imagine it going underneath, around everything. 3-dimensional perimeter. Okay? And the infill is how much material you want to have inside your object. We're not going to play with these settings at all. Next, we're going to go into preview or export print file. But if they are grayed out, please select devices, select type of device, and scroll down to Replicator 5th generation. From there, you should be able to have a preview and export print file settings. Let's check out our preview. Okay, so from here we can rotate. If you have a PC mouse, you can see the raft that's a 1/4 inch around, and the raft actually is around the supports. Because our branch is free floating, there's nothing underneath it to build up to. Makerbot created support so that when we print, it can actually span the gap and print up to there on its own. They break off fairly easily, so you don't have to worry about that. Material used, about 16.58 grams. Print time, 1 hour, 15 minutes. Now I was talking about infill earlier. You can see that because it had 10%, these are how many extra layers of material I have. They add for structural integrity, but it's not really necessary. You can see that as you go down, the next big spot is the base of the cylinder. That's another skin. So if I decide to go to 2 millimeters, I'll just close this for now. If I decide to go to 2 millimeters, or sorry, 2 microns instead of 3, it would add a lot more time and more shells, etc., etc. You guys get the idea. So if I want to add another file, I could go File, Add File, and that would add a second object to my print bed at the exact same time. Okay. If I'm not done with my file, I'd have to go File, Save, and it'll save as a thing file. We're not going to do that just yet. So right now I'm going to go to Preview, and I'm going to follow the steps to export my print file. Okay, everything is exactly the way I like it. Now I'm going to press Export. Our name from tree to our common naming convention. It is going to be your name and a color. And you'll notice that it says .makerbot, not .thing. Save. I'll replace it. and OK. If I have a name.thing, I'm saving the context in which I have things arranged in case I need to build something else. Like I had multiple files to add on, multiple pieces, or if I had two different things of the same color I want to print. But as long as I'm not over my 40 grams, everything's all good. So I'll just X out of here, close without saving, and you'll see that I have tree.stl and namegreen.makerbot. Black file, red file. And there we have it. Make sure you drag and drop this file into the USB drive, and it's ready to go.